welcome back to RLCS Overtime. Ladies and gentlemen, we just got done talking to Turtle, and now it's time to recap all of EU4. What happened with league play? I'm your host, Wave Funk. I got a findable carpet here. How you doing, bud?
Doing pretty good, bud.
Doing pretty good? I'm doing pretty good. Yeah. And over here, we got Lawler and Leaf.
Oh, come on.
We're not allowed to.
Pinky. There we are.
It's not allowed. It's not
I can't tell which was worse, to be honest.
Theirs was adorable.
Yeah, that's true.
I thought that was...
Ours startled people. They're like, please no.
I thought it was cute. But we had a great weekend of Rocket League action here in Europe. We got things started off with Mocket versus Resonance. As it was the case over in NA, all of these matches had meant so much for so many teams as Mocket was able to get the win here in 5 games.
Resonant, a team that had everything on the line here, and they had pretty much the same thing Genesis had. A team in the beginning, or a game in the beginning and a game at the end,
Yep.
And their last game was against Flipside Tactics. So this was a game they needed to win. They brought it to game 5, but alas, Mocket were the ones to take out the victory.
I mean, the biggest thing for Resonant is all they needed was one win to get into that playoff spot over Penta. So for them, like, they had a better chance in this one against a team that has been touted as, like, Gibbs thinks they're still the best in EU for some reason, even though they haven't performed that way. But despite that, they did really well this weekend.
Yeah, but they still might have the best player in EU right now in the form of K-Dop. K-Dop right now is an overperforming player in an underperforming team. He is on top of almost every single stats line in EU, most average score per game, and he tied with Kixer for the top goals per game.
I mean, you see it there in the box score. Not only is he scoring goals, but he's also making a ludicrous amount of saves to help out his team. He is all over the field, just like you said.
And back and forth from game to game, we see a 2-goal win in Mocket's favor, and then a 4-goal loss against Mocket, you know, with Resonant coming on top. Both teams really not fully showing up, but again, first game of the day, everyone's usually a little bit cold, so that could be a result of that as well.
Yeah, we'll see Resonance again later on, but then Mocket goes on to face the big up-and-coming underdog squad of the Leftovers as this one got underway. This one also went to 5 games. Similar situation to the Resonance match as it went back and forth, and then the game 5 was just crazy.
Yeah, part of the reason why Mocket was able to take it is simply because of who was involved in that game, and it had to be Mystic. Mystic has always been kind of that back guy, that one that fills in the role, but he really stepped up this match to help out K-Dot.
Yeah, Mystic, as you said, really came up big here. The Leftovers just gave Mocket too much space, and Mocket is a team that has been growing in strength throughout the season, and I think this game right here kind of proved why Gibbs was correct. This is a team, if they start turning up, all of them, they are scary.
I mean, you just look at that right there. It's 2:44 left to go. Now 1:47 left to go with 7 goals to nothing. This game, I believe this set a record for most goals scored by a single team in a game, and I'm pretty sure there were some other records in there as well. It was bonkers, 9-1 after a very, very close defensive series. That last game, Mocket lit it up, completely handed it to the Leftovers as they get knocked down. But Leftovers were not done yet. They had one more series, and they had to go up against Gale Force. Now, this was the big series. This was the big game of the day. If they took this one, they qualified for top 2. If Gale Force took it, they didn't, and they would need some tiebreakers.
Wait, you mentioned how badly Leftovers lost the last game against Mocket. Was it 7-0, 8-0?
9-1.
Okay, 9-1. So 7-0 with like 2 minutes left. 9-1, and they somehow managed to beat Gale Force eSports immediately following.
In a reverse sweep, which is the story of the Leftovers,
It's what
right?
they do. They've had, I think it's like 5 game 5s or like something like that, and they're
All
like
but one have been game 5.
They're 4-1. It's like ridiculous. Like, why did they do this to us?
And that's even still going back to week 2 of the qualifiers, where only 2 of their games during that qualification stage didn't go to game 5. This is something that has not started in the league play. They just really enjoy making their own lives as difficult and as nerve-wracking as possible.
And let's talk about something really, really weird. Leftovers, every single series they have been a part of has gone to game 5. And the only time they didn't, they got 3-0 swept by Penta, a team that didn't even qualify into the regional playoffs. What is that consistency?
I mean, they lost 2 series, one to Penta and one to Mocket. Otherwise, they beat Gale Force, they beat Northern, they beat Flipside. These head-to-heads for them are crazy stuff. And the Leftovers getting the win, or not getting the win here over Gale Force, but Gale Force continuing on. And oh my goodness.
Well, because of that game for Leftovers, they were able to get into LAN. Like, that's huge.
They did
That's
get the win
absolutely
over Gale
insane.
Force.
They got a reverse sweep against Gale Force to get into LAN.
It's official. Doomsy was the problem. Snasky gets to go to a LAN. It's
That was
perfect.
Doomsy's tweet after the game.
He was
God.
it's correct at the end of the day, but Sicky.
Good
Good God, Shogun.
Doozy, I love you, baby, but you did leave Team Rocket. Okay, fire has to be thrown.
It was Snasky, and we talked about this during the match. Like, it was Snasky and Farah have been the players everybody's been talking about, but it's Sicky who's put together a team every season that has sent him to LAN.
Yeah, and I was talking about it during the broadcast. It's different levels of experience here. Sicky, been to every single LAN so far. Snasky, been involved in ton of league plays, but never quite made it. And Farah, the newbie, the rookie on this team, makes his first LAN on his very first attempt. So all different ranges of experience, but they are all going to LA.
I wish we gave out a Rookie of the Year award because
go to Farah,
if we ever do it, I'm going to make an argument that we retroactively come back and give it to Farah as well here in season 3 because he the story I remember, like the game where they play against Flipside. People were asking me this on stream yesterday all the time, like, what's been your favorite series of league play? And it was Flipside and Leftovers with the reverse sweep, the triple dribble to get it past everybody. Everyone remembers the moment, like crazy stuff from them. So the Leftovers, they qualify here with a defeat over Gale Force because they hold the head-to-head over everybody.
Yeah, that's been the craziest part of it, is at the very beginning of the season, they were able to take it over the 2 big Titans that we talk about that everybody's worried about, and they're like, all right, well, just don't screw up now, and it's okay. And they did that. Like, it was crazy. And then you said it for Farah, like, to be the rookie and also be going into this week the 3rd best striker against people like Cooks and Markey, like, to be up in there in that podium level with those 2 players is hands down, like, unbelievable.
Yeah, well, that is it for Leftovers as they qualify. Gale Force had one more match to go. So we move on in our recap here. They had kind of a rough weekend here. I had a rough weekend with this too because I believe I picked Gale Force to win both of these, and they didn't win either of them. But Northern Gaming in 4 games able to take it here over Gale Force.
Northern Gaming has been a consistent team. We've seen them time and time again here, going all the way, and they, again, on one of the other teams that was looking to make it into the top 2 spots. You know, we just talked about Leftovers. We didn't really talk about a whole lot. They are one of the top 2. They are in LAN right now. They have qualified in for LAN, and NG, Northern Gaming here, trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, that series was just basically showing how good Northern Gaming truly is. Maestro, I said it during that series, where he'd been the past couple weeks not been the most active. He hasn't been making so many plays, but everyone he was making was so crucial. You see it in that touch there. Like, as soon as he gets his nose on the ball and he's in that position, he's going to make it count. And he did that.
This is overtime for the win.
Yeah, he was not only that, but he was our MVP for this week for the EU. Like, he played out of his mind.
Yeah, Maestro was really good. And here's the thing right now for Northern Gaming. One slip up all season against the Leftovers. We've kind of just come to the conclusion now that just sort of happens when you play against the Leftovers. They are the most consistent team, not only in the RLCS, but during the weekly tournaments as well. We've seen a couple of teams out there that can play really well during these Gfinities and other tournaments, but just can't transfer it over. Nope. Maestro, Devo, and Remco, they can.
It's been the story of Season 3. Consistency gets you places. If you can play consistently, you will be in the top. And as Northern Gaming moves on to face off against Flipside, that consistency pays off as they qualify for their 3rd season of LAN.
The best part about this is Northern Gaming has a very big track record against Flipside, and it's never in their favor. We see it so many times in the championships and at Worlds, where they just always fall short to this gatekeeper team that we tout them as. And this time they're like, all right, you know what? We're coming in as number 1. This is our reason. Is it Devo? Is Devo going to be the one that allows us to finally say we got Flipside?
I think Devo actually is, because whenever we saw them play against Flipside last season, they were very quiet. They're almost looking like they wanted Flipside to make a mistake against them. This time around, really pressing up, looking to see if Flipside would make mistakes, and they turned it into a much more sloppy series than usual, but that's what they needed.
When we talk about consistency, and the one thing Flipside was not this week was the normal world champion gatekeeper team that we've seen. The sloppy play here against Northern Gaming. You saw Remco tweeted out after this win. He was like, I didn't play very good, but who cares? Made it to LAN. It's great, you know. And they just capitalized on mistakes. We saw Cookser and Markey in teams just making, mainly it was Cookser and Markey. Like, Greasy had a pretty decent game, but those guys making mistakes, missing backboard shot, missing easy, simple passes, completing the ridiculous stuff we see them usually doing, but those simple things, the little passes, not able to complete.
I mean, watching Flipside, I was casting these last 2 series, and I almost felt guilty watching Cooksier and Markey make mistakes. You know, they're just, you watch them all the time, and it's Flipside. It's Flipside. You just don't mess up when you're Flipside. And so many times I was just like, all right, well, Cooksier just missed that completely. Markey missed that completely. And Greasy was actually the 3rd they brought in to fill up the roster, but instead, he was the one that had to ground them.
Now, Flipside, playing inconsistently in the past in the match against Northern Gaming, and that continues here against Resonant. There was talk of people being like, are they throwing here? And it's like, did you see them playing against Northern Gaming? They weren't playing well there either.
Well, the part of it was Resonant needed this win to stay alive. They weren't able to get it against Mocket in their first game of the day. They had to sit and wait all day, letting that mental get to them, and then for them to come up clutch, because they played well. Like, you can't say that. Some of it was on the side of Flipside not looking like Flipside, but still, Resonant showed up.
Yeah, it really is. And Resonant's been a team that's kind of struggled to get into their own pace. Them and Penta were both the teams that we've always looked at and just gone, if they play really well, they can be up there with the rest of the top teams in the EU. Haven't quite done it so far, but they will get to take on Flipside yet again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, and remember, Resonance started off the day with what was arguably their easier match against Mocket, which they dropped in 5 games, and then here, in 5 games, taking it to Flipside. It was such an exciting way to see them continue on as they qualify for the playoffs.
I'm not gonna lie, this was one of the sloppier games I've casted.
Sure.
Every single game felt like it was a different 2 teams that mounted the field. I mean, look at this, trading back and forth. You have 3-2 in favor of one. 3-2 then, okay, you'll swap, that's fine, that's close. And then a 4-0, then a 4-3 and a 2-1. It felt close to a degree, but these are such high-scoring games for 2 teams that really you think would be playing a little more defensively against each other, and it really caught me off guard.
And the question on this one really is, if Flipside had beaten Northern Gaming, would this be any different? Because then we start getting into tiebreaker scenarios where Flipside's got to play a little bit harder, really try and zone in on it. So we really must ask that question. We obviously will never get the answer to it, but if they really had to push for it, would Flipside have won?
I mean, I think Flipside had everything to play for in that series, which is, I think, again, I'm coming back to like the people that were thinking, because Flipside gets to basically pick who they were playing, either Resonant or Penta in this final series, and so a lot of people were wondering, are they throwing intentionally to just be able so they can play Resonant? And you see Greasy talking about how it's like, we lose to Resonant all the time, and we never lose to Penta. Why would we ever do that? And if you saw the way they were playing against Northern was the same way they were playing against Resonant here, and they had everything to play for against Northern Gaming because they get an automatic buy into land with that win. So I think that this was just not Flipside's week.
And it was honestly the worst I've seen them perform in it. And it really, it's one of those kind of like, where is this coming from? I've never seen this kind of sloppiness, just the inconsistency, the unconfidence, right? I mean, you look at Cooks here, he might be a quiet player, but my God, is he great. And just watching him like completely miss a save. Like, I'm like, what is going on? And then I'm like, okay, well, he messed that up. Oh no, it's happened again. Like, oh, a third time? You know, it's like, it's so rare to see that I almost didn't even know like how to analyze them.
Yeah, no, and as we take a look at the standings here, you'll see Flipside Tactics not in the top 2. They will have to play in the playoffs to make it to land as Northern Gaming and Leftovers locked up those top 2 spots.
I mean, you look at that bracket and how close it is, it really explains it as well in this week 5. Every game but one went to a game 5. All of these guys are so neck and neck, and when we talk and we look towards the regional championships that we're going to see in 2 weeks here, like, I don't want to be a part of that. Like, I'm just going to sit back and be like, you guys do your thing. Like, pickups are done. Like, good luck.
Yeah, but one thing I agree with entirely that this leaderboard shows us, Northern Gaming at the top. For me, easily the best team in EU right now.
Best team in the world right now.
They've been so consistent. They placed 3rd in both seasons 1 and 2 worldwide, and now they are the #1 seed heading into our playoffs. But before we move on to talking about the playoffs, the top 5 plays for Europe just as high flying as the North American counterparts. And we'll get things started off here with Devo, who I hear hits just the angle that is not possible, doesn't exist.
Devo made himself a namesake here in Rocket League. Last season, I mean, no one had heard about him. He was essentially the Pharaoh of last season, and what a play to do. I mean, he, again, coming from his opponent's corner to get the shot, and it's not even just that he was able to execute that, but to place it to the side as well.
Number 4 coming in with Snasky, using that teamwork. We talked so much about how Fair is a striker. Now going to pass it off and use that teamwork for Snasky. And not only that, but 7 seconds in overtime. As soon as that kickoff went off, they transitioned downfield, maintained possession by slowing it down. Just quick little decisions, one after another, to secure that and get the win. And now they're on the land.
Yeah, but moving on to play number 3. We talked about some sloppy play here from Flipside. This was kind of the crown jewel of everything they did this weekend. This pass from Cookser up to Markey. They were missing the easy stuff, but when it came to this, everything upside down into the goal, oh my goodness.
This is signature Flipside tactics, them being able to pull that off.
Yeah, but here for number 2, Chaussette, with what I want to now call the spiral play right here. Look at him, right up there, one touch, spins his car around, gets it down to his teammate, As a defender, you just look at that and you just leave your mouth agape because you are doing nothing.
To use
You
the
can't say
ceiling.
that. You can't say
Yeah.
that.
He used the ceiling as a second man to pass it then one more time. He's like, oh, don't worry.
Yeah, it's a pass play to his teammate, but he has another teammate that's the ceiling. It's fine.
His favorite teammate is him. It's perfect.
Yep, but number one, Metzenaris Resonance, as they able to get the win here in game number 5, securing their bid in the playoffs. Metzenaris is a big part of that.
Just
Fantastic.
clean.
Fantastic double touch. You see him read that off the wall. As soon as that's cleared, capitalizing on the mistake, really. That clear didn't go out far enough. He was already waiting for it. It should have been settled and played down into the net. But for him to take that and then follow up that touch, and then he did this like little ballerina twisty thing in the air to make sure he hit it just right. Like,
I mean,
fantastic.
It's ballerina stuff, but at the same time, that is the only way that ball goes in. If he does not hit it with that top left-hand side of his car, that's not going to get the power to go in. It's going to be saved by the defender or just not go above the net.
Right. No, so those plays, big part of what has them still with a chance here in the playoffs. So we take a look at the brackets. 2 teams have a bye into the semifinals, which means that they are able to go straight to the LAN. But the quarterfinal matches here. Only one team of each of these matches is going to be able to go to Hollywood.
I mean, I said it earlier. You look at those, like, look at that upper bracket. Gale Force and Mocket are fighting out, and then they got to go place Northern Gaming. Obviously, you win one, and you're going to Worlds. That's the big thing.
That's the thing they have to worry about right now.
Like, you still look at that, and you're like, okay, you look at all the teams that are in those lower ones. You're either playing Flipside or you're playing Gale Force, who has been, for the most part, in that top 3.
I think people might be giving Flipside kind of an automatic, like, okay, they're going to do it well, and then they're going to make it into semis. But the team they most recently lost to was Resonant, who they now have to face off against.
Yeah, and I really want to look at that other game as well, though. Gale Force versus Mocket. Gale Force are having a nerve issue right now. They have now lost the flip side, Northern Gaming and the leftovers, when it has been most crucial that they get the win. Mocket is the upcoming team here who are finally finding their stride. That nerve is going to be huge.
I mean, serious question for you then, Shogun. Do you think Gale Force is going to be able to do it? Do you think Mocket's going to take them over?
No, I honestly don't right now, unless they have a serious... This is a mental issue right now. This is not gameplay for them. They need to sit down and just go, here's our rotations, here's how we do it. Do not panic. And yes, there is a couple of language barriers on that team, but this is the LAN you're talking about, and this is Mocket Esports, a team that, when on their game, will tear you to shreds, as the leftovers will tell them.
I have to disagree, to be honest. I think Gale Force can do it mostly because if I'm just going with what I've seen here at the RLCS, they have shown me more consistency. Gale Force has been able to show me the consistency. I know Gibbs came in talking really hot about Mocket, and I was really excited to see them, and then we just didn't see it. They seemed to fall flat every single series. I know they have the raw talent, but I think Gale Force can do it.
Absolutely, but we can take a look at the prize pool here. This is what they are playing for, same as North America here in Europe, $10,000 for first place. And this money, again, as we said over in North America, this is great, but what you're worried about first off is making it into the playoffs, making it into LAN so you have a chance at the big cash at Worlds.
I mean, obviously these guys want to win. Win one, you go to LAN, and then you get even more money on top of it. So that's fantastic, but that's what it really comes down to. You get one win, you're in, but if not, I mean, you still got a bunch of cash. So, I mean, either way, not what you should be focusing on, but
Absolutely.
get the win. Get the win.
Well, we'll see. We'll see who can do it. I'm excited to see which teams are going to make it here. We'll find out in a few weeks. But for our show, we've got one more thing. We've all been trying to guess who's going to win all season long. We'll be doing the caster pick'ems. We'll give you kind of a summary on how that went here after the break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.